What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review F9. And this comes from somebody who's a big fan of the franchise, mainly even, I would argue, a big fan of the last little section of movies that we've gotten that have been very polarizing and have either, you've either joined Fast and Furious because of 5, 6, 7, 8, or you now hate it, mainly probably because of 6, 7, 8, and now 9, right? This comes from somebody who's kind of loved them all, but actually does like the newer ones better. So, take that for what you will. If you want to leave now because of that, that is totally cool. I am going to spoil this film. I just feel like it's going to be hard to talk about it too much without just accidentally saying things, and I do like to talk without a script, so I'm probably going to inadvertently spoil things. So now's your warning, right? I'm going to spoil F9. There's not too much to spoil, to be flat out honest with you. So here's the deal. I loved it. I would say I loved it. Do I think it's the best one? No. Do I think it's one of the weaker ones? Maybe even in all? Probably. Do I think it's one of the weaker ones in the last little stretch? Yes. But with that, I think the problem with people's expectations and what I've seen online so far is that seemingly, you can't have both of what I just said. You can't say, well, this may be one of the weaker Fast and Furious films or one of the weaker, newer ones, but I also still really enjoyed it and loved it, to death. I loved it a lot. I want to watch it again. I'm going to own it, all that stuff. I cannot wait, right? I think both can be true, right? F6, Fast and Furious 6, is my favorite one. I said that. I actually did a ranking video. I said, it's going to be very hard for any of these movies to beat 6. This one didn't even come close, I thought. 5 is very well put together, maybe the best put together Fast and Furious film. So here's what I thought about 9, is I thought it was a lot like 7. And what do I mean by 7? I thought high stakes in the sense of the action was very big, it was very loud, right? It was very in your face, it was over the top, and I think you have to get over that immediately. The movie literally in the first big, and it's the part where they go over the wooden bridge, and then Dom obviously gets his tire, with the rope, and they swing. It's just so convoluted and crazy. It demands that if you're gonna watch the rest of it, if you expect yourself to get through it, you have to just accept it. Because after seeing that, you're okay, there's our ceiling. We know how crazy they'll go. And honestly, the car going to outer space, what I felt wasn't even as unbelievable as that first kind of rainforesty kind of chase. You know what I mean? So I thought that, I get it. I get it. You have to suspend your disbelief, and for a film like this, maybe you don't want to do it, or you miss the old-time Fast and Furious. I get it. I understand it. But again, this is just it's just my opinion. The action scenes, all in your face, all very, very big, all very, very, very loud. I liked it. There was emotion. I thought they actually did do a pretty good job at that. I know a lot of, what I saw a lot of the reviews saying early on was that, there's so much focus on the action, and then there's very little of the actual story. I do think they were lazy at times, and depending on when this video goes up with other videos, I've addressed them. I don't necessarily like what they did with Cypher. I don't like the non-answers that we got, with Mr. Nobody, just he's there and then he's not there, and there's really no explanation. There's almost them ignoring it. Han, you either buy his return or the reason why he survived, or you don't, or you fall somewhere in the middle, it's a little sketchy. That's kind of where I'm at. I kind of like it. I believe it in the sense of where Fast and Furious has gone, but at the same time, it's that's the best you got. That's the reason. And I guess, this is spoilers, right? Pretty much they chalk it up to magic and Mr. Nobody just being good at his job, right? That he's just able to make those things happen. So 1 second, Han's there and he's going to die, or maybe that wasn't him, because it's kind of ambiguous of if that was even him in the first place, and then all of a sudden, he's not dead, he's next to Mr. Nobody, and that's it, and then he has to stay dead. So they chalk it up, again, to Mr. Nobody just being able to do anything he wants, which I get, they've established that character to do that, so it's not forced, but it's all right, that's what you're that's what you're going with. So things like that, there are definitely issues with this film, but I would say there's plenty of emotion. There's plenty of story building. In terms of the characters, I think they go through an okay amount. Some of them get a little, they don't move as far as I wanted them to move. They do nothing with the Ramsey and then the triangle, the love triangle that they were teasing in 7. They teased a little bit more in 8, but they kind of left it alone. And then in 9, they continue to just completely ignore it, with obviously focusing more on Roman and Tej's bromance, which I love. I think was phenomenal. I love that about the movie. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. but they just, and Ramsey's a great character, and she absolutely is elevated in this movie to actually being one of my favorites. I would put her in like the top, I don't even know, top 3 or 4 characters in this film. She was phenomenal in the movie. So like they didn't, and I liked Roman, I liked Tej. They gave Roman a lot to do as well. He gets beat up quite often. He's fighting a lot. Tej doesn't have, I would say, as much to do as he normally does. But again, there's kind of you have to trade that in when you're pushing other characters, right? So like none of the characters in that way were bad, and I could keep going, right? I think Letty was very good, very strong, kind of multi-dimensional. Dom wasn't as multi-dimensional as he was in 8, and that was kind of like a thing that was like, oh man, he can do this. Like he's never really done this in these movies before. He was very physically, like they physically demanded of him a lot in this movie, but he didn't have as much, especially with like a brother kind of thing. He didn't have over the top emotion and doing that as much as I thought. However, again, like pointing at the individual characters and talking about what I liked, every scene with him and Jacob in it was phenomenal. I really, really liked it. There was tension there. Their fight scene was awesome. So I really liked them together. I'd say maybe Dom was one of the weaker-ish characters in the movie. But again, I really do feel like it was because of focusing on other characters, and they also did so many flashbacks where he was kind of the main star as well, and it wasn't Vin Diesel. So I think that kind of takes away a little bit from his character in the present when you focus so much on him in the past. Does that make sense? I do think that kind of hurt his overall character. But again, now my wife really didn't like the flashback scenes. I didn't hate them. I didn't mind them, I'd say, but I thought there were a couple too many. I thought they could have eliminated some. I loved Mia coming back. I mean, that was awesome. She got some pretty cool fight scenes that she got to knock people over the head with several kitchen utensils. Absolutely loved that. It's great to see Jordana back, so that's awesome. Again, Han coming back. I mean, Han's a fantastic character. He was fantastic in this movie. They didn't give him too much to do, but he was great. Jacob, again, was really awesome. Cypher, again, kind of underused. So I would say, when you pick it apart individually, the more I talk about it in that way, I really do like it. I thought, again, I don't necessarily agree with people in the reviews when they said like it was so focused on action that it lacked the story or emotions. I do think it had that. I think lacking maybe is the right term in the sense that they could have done a little bit more, but I would say it was a pretty solid blend. I compared it earlier in the video to F7 just because I thought it was a little messy and it got a little slow, even though it's a very fast movie and very like things are always happening and big things are always happening. I would compare it to 7 in that way because 7, I think, was very, very messy in terms of jumping all over the place, almost forcing things to happen. I think Paul Walker's, death had a big part of that where maybe they had to redo things. So I completely, I give them that. That's not something they have to apologize for. For this one, it's you can't really, I would hold it a little bit more against them because it's just, there were only 3 things you needed. You needed both halves of the orb, and then you needed the girl, and that's or L, right? And that's all you needed. And they kind of stretched it out. And then they kind of just end, like, before you know it, you're in that truck scene, right, with the magnets being used, and that's, like, the end of the movie. That's another thing I would say. Well, let me say a positive, and then I'll say a negative. I actually really loved the magnets. Again, the suspending your disbelief. I loved it. I loved when they were driving, Dom and Letty were driving kind of side by side, and they turned the magnet all the way up, and cars and everything was just flinging on the truck. I loved that, like, quite a bit, because, obviously it's so unbelievable, but they actually did that. Like those are cars being thrown, and they destroy a lot of vehicles in these movies, when they're doing them. So it reminded me of 8 when they're driving all the cars off the garage and they're like falling down. I like that a lot. So I really enjoyed that. I would say again, the last weakness I'll point out is the ending. It kind of just ends and it's like, oh, so Jacob's just gone, and then you do the barbecue, and the barbecue was great, but they showed it in the trailer, which is annoying. Then you tease Paul Walker, you tease Brian. Obviously, we know what happened to Paul Walker, but you tease Brian to the point of you mention him, and then he drives up, and the music gets very big and loud. Everybody looks to him, and then it cuts to black. So it's like, man, I love that. By the way, that was a really, really good scene. I don't think the actual ending of the film was kind of a letdown or disappointing. I thought that part was awesome. I'd say the part right before that, Cypher loses one drone, and then she walks off screen, and that's it. She's just gone. They're not going to go look for her. She, escaped. she's the villain of 10 again, or like, again in the next movie. Like, I didn't really like that at all. I felt that was very much like, oh, we're just gonna let her go for now, and we'll explain it later. And then again, kind of the ending of, well, okay, everybody's they hug, he gives him the 10-second car, and then Jacob leaves, and it's like, all right. I mean, that part was, I guess, fine in what it was, but I would have liked a little bit more. I felt like 9 was very much a setup to 10, but it's hard. Well, okay, I think a movie should be judged individually, so I would understand you holding that against the film. Remember, when they filmed 9, the idea was that 10 was the last one, and that 9 and 10 were like almost going to be a back-to-back thing. So the fact that 9 leaves kind of weird with Jacob driving off, and it's like, oh, okay, you're doing that, and then a barbecue, that made sense, and then Cypher just walking off, it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. I mean, again, I would hold it against it because it's a film and it's, you got to stand it on its own and all that stuff. But if 10 connects directly to 9 and it's like a back-to-back thing, I would understand it. And I think that will happen, but I would understand it more, okay? I'm sure I could talk more about it. I know I've rambled. There's no coherent, straight line of things that I said in this video. I'm sorry. That's like what I like to do. And much like the movie, I was all over the place too, okay? But I overall liked it. I really did. Coming from a Fast and Furious fan, I loved the film. At the same, like, I can say, again, I believe I can say that. I loved the film. It was one of the weaker films that have come out. I still love 6 to death. 5, I really, really enjoy. 8, I really love. 8's actually kind of always been in contention for, like, my second favorite ever since it came out. So, this movie isn't as good, I think, as 6 or 8 or even 5. I think it fits somewhere in that 7 territory, where kind of the level of quality that 7 was. And some things, quality-wise, very, very high. And some things I think they didn't really, they kind of just let go, maybe to focus on the other stuff, but you can't really let those things go. So there were definitely issues, but I really enjoyed the film. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Did you see it? Are you completely out now after seeing it? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, so you guys know when all these videos go up. Leave this video a like, would obviously help it out. All of my social media stuff is in the description below if you guys want to check it out. My Patreon, my YouTube memberships, we have Twitter, we have a second channel. All of that stuff is down there, okay? Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.